Week 12. A lot of interesting moves here in the NFL. Got some quarterbacks not feeling so hot, some new faces running the show. Could be some defining moments in some teams' life this week. How are we doing, sir?
How we doing, Bucks McGee? I will say, the Bills gave a little bit of a scare to our format. I thought we were going to be labeling them fraudulent, and they almost pulled off the comeback here.
Yep, fraudulent as always. Welcome. Good old Buffalo. Good for something. 1 week looking good there, Josh, with your 6 touchdowns. Next, just dropping, screwing the pooch. Screwing the
And,
pooch.
and this is really the story of the Bills all season. They play their competition. The Tampa comes to town. They're in first place. Josh shows out and all the chunk plays and the scoring binge carries them to the finish line, and then they go down to Houston and Texas defense shuts them down. Davis Mills 3-0 this year.
Got to give Davis Mills credit right now, flying high, and Houston survives, and they're hoping for a miracle. Buffalo slowly starting on life support.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't need to see the Texans winning games right now. Getting into the wrong time of year to be messing around with that, as we have both of our games upcoming against them at the end. But
Mm-hmm.
they really controlled the clock in this one. A very efficient offense and defense, I think, was the story.
Yeah, it just comes down to it. This Houston defense has been solid for most of the year. It's just the offense has been sporadic. But hey, Mills is leading them 3-0, and you ride the hot hand. Who knows if Stroud's going to be back next week? But right now, they're just happy with the win over Buffalo.
Yeah, I think you certainly have the luxury of taking your time with Stroud, not rushing him back. No need to turn him into Tua Part 2.
No, you don't. If the defense is going to play like this, and Mills can just run the offense and keep it simple, hey, you got a chance.
One of your favorite side characters to watch, Will Anderson. You shout out his name a couple times on that final drive.
I'm telling you, man, that guy's a freak of nature, man. The talent off the edge there, the speed, he's insane. And like I said, that defense is built fast. They know how to play. You got to give them credit. If only the offense can keep it straight, Will could maybe sniff the playoffs. But so they got to take it a week at a time, kind of turn things around. The run game is getting there. We'll see how that continues to develop. But a win's a win, and you take it.
Well, if they could eke out a playoff berth over the Chiefs, I think we'd both have something to smile over that. And here are the Chiefs. They host my Colts this week, probably the signature game of the weekend. We're coming off a bye week.
This is it right here, man. A lot of people are going to sit here and say this is your game. This is your measuring stick. I don't feel that way because I think the Chiefs aren't as good as everyone thinks they are, or still thinks they are at 5-5. But you guys could really, really put a nail in the coffin on this team if you guys can go to Arrowhead and handle business.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about this one because on paper, I think we're the better team. I mean, the Chiefs have a strong run defense, so that although that hasn't mattered really a whole lot with stopping Taylor this year, but and then they're also a little weak in the tight end game, which we of course have a very strong asset in that category. But it just makes me nervous being rusty, not looking that good, not looking that sharp against Atlanta. Of course, the Pittsburgh loss. I'm kind of not as confident as I was maybe a few weeks ago headed into this one.
What it comes down to is just making sure you protect Indiana Jones. That's what it comes down to. When that line holds up, this team is pretty much unbeatable. If they start leaking like they have, and they've shown a little bit of cracks here and there, it's going to cause some trouble for the offense. And then at that point, you just key in on Taylor. So I think if they can keep Indiana upright, they should be all right.
And this, I mean, it's an interesting one. I almost feel like the deciding point could be the quarterback scrambling.
It may play a big part in this game if Daniel can be decisive, and if he takes off, uses his legs at the right time. I think it'll help this offense. He's definitely not a run first kind of guy, but I think it definitely does help. I think the key also is defensively. They've just got to keep things in front of them. I don't think Pachenko's playing this week. I think he's still got one more game before he comes back. So the run game is going to be interesting for the Chiefs if they can get anything going. If not, they really can't. Especially last game, it takes a lot for them to put points up on the board just strictly through the pass. So I think the Colts can kind of play to that and just be strong, especially with Sauce Gardner in that back end now. So it's going to be interesting. And yes, the aura, of course, kind of always is in the back of your head when it comes to this team in Kansas City. But honestly, if you play the way they're supposed to play, they've got as good a shot as any is to win this game.
Yeah, hopefully with a game under his belt and then the bye week to rest and learn the playbook a little more, Sauce will really be comfortable now. And I don't think it's a coincidence the last couple of weeks with the defensive struggles that with DeForest Buckner's injury. So hopefully he's back, because I think I don't think that's a coincidence that the Colts struggles of late coincide with Buckner's injury.
Yeah, of course. Someone of that talent, you definitely, when they're hurt, you miss them. But if you can get the pressure on it, you saw last week with Mahomes against Denver, throws were off. It's not the same offense. It's not clicking. So I think you just go in, stick to your game plan, and you just let it rip.
Well, we're off a bye, and your team is very much in need of a rebound after that Bills game. So you head out to L.A., Tinseltown.
Yep, the Rams. Oh, the Rams. Good golly gee, the Rams. It's going to be one of those games where you just, you got to play smart. You got to watch the deep ball, and that's what we've been susceptible to. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think ball control is going to be key, and if we can keep the Rams offense on the bench and hold, sustain drives, I think we've got a shot.
Yeah, that's it's just being susceptible to the deep ball is a hard vote of confidence to swallow, given how Stafford's played this year, and how hot him and Adams has been of late.
Oh no, definitely. The one thing in our favor is I think we've got a lot of young cornerbacks. We've got some speed who I think can hang with Adams. It's just going to be getting Stafford uncomfortable in the pocket, forcing him to move around. If we let him sit in that pocket, yeah, he's going to do great things. I think we've got to force him to move, kind of limit the run game, and like I said, we've got to have quality drives. Threes aren't going to win this game. You got to put up sevens. So it'll be fun to see. You just, you got to do what you got to do. At this point, we're just focused on, you try to steal a win and, continue to solidify that, lead in the division.
What's the latest on the injuries this week and how that might affect this game?
Well, injuries, everyone's still been pretty much the same. It's just, there was a stomach bug going around. Hopefully everyone is shaking that off come Sunday. No word on Bucky. I don't know if Bucky's going to be playing again. I think you're going to get a heavy dose of Sean Tucker again. And I think it's going to be a little more balanced. I think you'll see, White in the more of a receiving back role. And definitely he'll be in there for protection. So it's just going to be one of those things, next man up. So you just continue to go with who we've got and you see what happens.
Yeah, has Sean Tucker kind of supplanted Rachaad White right now? Or is it more of a situation like where Bucky was the runner and Rachaad White receiving is kind of Sean Tucker pushes White back into his old familiar role?
I think that's what it's. I think that's what it's going to be. You'd have to. My opinion, you'd have to see Tucker, do what he did last week and come close to it this week to really supplant. I think he'll get a lot more touches this week, but I think they'll try to balance it out a bit more. But it's one of those things where it all depends. The Rams offense, they're a young team. They've got a great pass rush. So you might have to keep White in a little bit more as a, blocking kind of back. Same thing with Ott. He might have to, instead of, trying to get his catches, he might have to sit in and pick up some blitzes because I'm sure they're going to bring that. And then, Baker will just have to do what he can.
Yeah, do you think the Rams secondary can be picked apart, or are they pretty stout back there?
I think they're good. I definitely think, I think Baker's shown this year that he can throw the ball with anybody. So it's going to be whether Baker can get the time to do it. That's like with any quarterback. If he can get the time, then he's got a shot. But if they bring the pressure and they open up some gaps and he can run through, it might be a situation where Baker's legs keep a couple of drives alive, and that's how we get the points. So it'll be interesting to see how the secondary plays them. But I think what they're going to do is they're going to have to honor the run game for sure. And then they'll just take it from there. So I think in the first couple series, you'll see Tampa kind of see what this defense is going to give them, and they'll go from there.
Yeah, has your offensive line had gotten healthy yet, or?
Yeah, those guys are pretty healthy for the most part. There are a couple guys kind of nicked up, but as a whole this year, these guys, they've, had some guys move around and they've played solid. As long as, you got Wirfs in there, I think everybody else plays well around him and they'll be all right. But like I said, even with that, with that line, you're going to probably keep a back or a tight end to help block because of, the pass rush and such, just to give Baker that added protection.
Now, those are the two big games this week. There's one more big one, but that one, there's a very present undertone that we start off our favorite game here at Sunday Scaries.
Extra point, extra point.
And that first game, and the topic of extra points is a quarterback injury shuffle. So the first game is a pretty notable game. I think it's probably the third notable game after the Colts and Bucs games, and that is Pittsburgh heading into the Windy City, a town that very much has been kind to Aaron Rodgers over the years, but it's not looking too good that Aaron Rodgers will be playing. They're keeping that close to their chest, though.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to find out till last minute. We'll probably find out sometime tomorrow for sure. I think if they're smart, you at least rest them. If they don't think it's that bad, give them a week just to make sure. It is some type of break, they're saying. So I say you take the chance because you got to think long term. I think Mason Rudolph can handle this offense, and it'll be a lot of run heavy, short, quick passing, which should be perfect for him. But yeah, I'd rest Rodgers 1 week, let him, make sure that if it is a break, if it's a minimal, if he just needs a week and they bandage him up or whatever they got to do for him, you do that because you don't want him injuring it anymore. And then you got to go the rest of the year with Mason Rudolph, and then who knows what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a matter of gamesmanship. Like, don't let it on to be so serious that he's definitely not going to play. So the Bears have to game plan for both quarterbacks. I mean, the word in practice has been that they've kind of been sharing first team reps. So I mean, I'll, if Rodgers does play, it would be a very, very last minute decision. But I kind of do agree because I feel like even a slight break, that's going to make the Bears have some extra motivation to go after him. And one bad hit, and now it's a serious break. And like you said, he's out for the year.
Yeah, and let's say it's not even a sack. Let's say he hits his hand or whatever, his wrist on a helmet. Like you don't know. Like I think if you just give him a week and just let him try to heal up a little bit. I understand, at this point, the division's tightening up, but one game is better than the rest of the season.
And Mason Rudolph didn't look bad in when he came in to relieve Rodgers last week. But we also have to worry about which Pittsburgh defense we're going to get, because we spent quite a bit of time last week singing the Bears' praises as far as how hot they are right now.
Yeah, it's one of those things where one week, they're great. They get after it. The next week, it's like, what's going on here? So, I think their defense is just going to have to be solid. They're just going to have to do what they need to do. I think the Bears do kind of, impose it's a serious offense. Like you got to give them credit. They've got a lot of weapons around there, so they're going to stretch this, Steelers defense thin, and probably throw the ball all over the yard. And I don't know if they can hang with it if the Bears are on their games.
Yeah, it's almost like a neutralizing factor that Rodgers' experience isn't there against a kind of a porous Bears defense. That maybe it kind of like brings the Steelers offense back down to the point where the Bears have a significant advantage, and as if it gets to be point for point.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because it's Aaron Rodgers. Even though he's not the Aaron Rodgers of old, it's still a situation where you have to respect it. And if he's not in there, I think you play a little different with Mason Rudolph, as the starter. I think the Bears defense will probably, bring a little more heat and see what Mason can do. In regards to that, I think the Steelers might, try to run a little more. It's going to be interesting how they look at each other that first couple series. But the end of the day, it's what do the Steelers think? Do they think Rodgers can go? Does Rodgers think he can go? Smart move to me is you let him sit a week. But if they feel it's that important that he plays, he's going to be out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I also think it's a situation where the Steelers almost need to save Rodgers from himself, because I don't think there's ever going to be a situation where Aaron Rodgers does not want to play against the Chicago Bears.
That's true, but Rodgers has also got to understand this isn't, 10, 15 years ago. It's totally different. You're not that Aaron Rodgers anymore. So he's got to kind of put that pride on the shelf and say, okay, maybe it's good for me just to take a week off and get this rested and get ready for a stretch run.
So you expect the Bears to be highly aggressive in blitz packages and rushing the quarterback, regardless of which quarterback it is.
Oh yeah, I definitely would, especially if you know that Mason Rudolph's going to be the guy.
Yeah. Next up, we always have fun talking about our friends, the Jets, Jets. And Justin Fields has been benched. I'm not quite sure if benching him against the Ravens is probably the right timing for that, but I guess it's not like Tyrod Taylor can do any worse.
Yeah, like at this point, I guess see what you've got in Taylor. Yeah, like I think you have an idea, but I guess they're looking for a spark, because we just know that Justin Fields just isn't it. Like it was a bad signing. He's just not the guy. And so now they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do going forward. But for this week, you get Taylor in. He's in limited action. He's moved the ball well with this offense. He's pretty accurate for the most part. So we'll see how the offense looks under him.
Now, given that the Jets have very much oddly been playing with an extra spark since their fire sale of Sauce and Keenan Williams, um, and the fact that teams usually do get a little extra boost when they change a quarterback or head coach for that matter, and the fact that the Ravens barely survived Cleveland last week, is there real? And Tyrod Taylor is someone very familiar with the Ravens organization, having spent several years there. Do all these kind of elements add up to a potential upset alert?
I don't know. I think the Ravens were on upset alert last week and survived. I don't know if they go back to back weeks with that. Um, I think I think the beginning of the game will be kind of tight, but I don't know if the Jets, even with Taylor, can really go toe to toe offensively. I think the Ravens might struggle a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be like we saw last week.
Yeah. Now we might be ready to bring them back to their permanent room at the penthouse if they were to barely survive the Browns and and do the same or even lose to the Jets.
Oh, at that point, you're naming it after them. You're naming the penthouse after them if that's what happens. But I think the Ravens are still trying to find their rhythm with Lamar back. But I can't see them losing to the Jets. If that happens, that's just going to be a mess.
Next one isn't exactly a quarterback change in a traditional sense, but because the quarterback was injured last week, Jackson Dart. No official word at this point, but trending like he's more likely to play than not. Going against the Lions. Lions actually have a fairly rough red zone defense, so Dart's had a lot of success scrambling and getting to the end zone on his part. Is this the right move to bring him back early? Jameis had a pretty spirited effort last week.
I wouldn't bring him back. I'd give him one more week. Let's be honest. You're not making a playoff push. Like let's be honest here. And I understand, the mathematics of it all and things of that nature, but this is your future. This is, and is it worth rushing him back to maybe take a whipping by Detroit? Because they're going to bring it.
Especially off last week, getting embarrassed by the Eagles.
Exactly. So if I knew I needed, Dart wasn't 100%, I'd give him one more week just to make sure. But Giants do what Giants do, and this is a typical move, I guess. Thinking that Dart's going to come out and give them a win. I don't see them beating the Lions whatsoever. But if you want to put your future at risk for a spirited 3 or 4 quarters, then hey, go ahead. But I would have started Jameis.
I don't want anyone to come at me. I know the Lions weren't embarrassed on the scoreboard, but they were kept out of the end zone. Now the Eagles have a very good defense, but that's still not the Lions we're used to seeing. We expected a showdown in that game.
Oh yeah, definitely. We definitely did. And the pride's hurt a little this week, so they're coming to bring it. And unfortunately, the Giants are going to be the recipient of that. And I just don't think you start Dart. I think you start with Jameis, see what you got out there with your pieces. This is the time you kind of figure yourself out for next year.
Yeah, and a comparison to the Texans game we just watched. Here they are being very cautious with C.J. Stroud, and you'd think there'd be a little bit of a comparable situation with the Giants being cautious with Jackson Dart. And that's someone like you said that the future actually is tied to. No offense to Davis Mills, there's no future tied to him.
Right, exactly. But I guess the difference is that Houston has a quality defense, and they feel that they feel they can hang their hat on that and maybe get some wins. Giants don't know what it is. Like, they're spirited. I give them credit, but I just don't think it's a good move, and it very well may bite them this week.
Yeah, and the Lions defense has obviously left a lot to be desired, but the Giants also are strictly Jackson Dart and nothing else, so you think they'd be able to put a cap on that.
Yeah, exactly. If they let Dart throw for 500 yards on them, then there's a serious problem in Detroit. But I think Detroit's got it handled.
Now the last two, I know you're very, very excited to talk about these, and the first one is the first career start for Shedeur Sanders. Came in last week and
About time. Give Shedeur his props, dang nabbit. It's time. Just because he's sitting there like, gosh darn it, you guys suck. Put him in. Let's just see what you got. Believe me, I'm not waving the flag for the Sanders family. I don't think he's, the greatest thing since sliced bread, but geez, took you long enough.
Then you would think that this is could be a decent opportunity to make a statement as far as, hey, I can actually do this job playing the Raiders and their very porous defense outside of obviously Max Crosby.
Oh yeah, this is it. This is the move right here. If he can look good and play a quality game, put some points up, keep it smart, this could be what he needs. Now, it may not be with Cleveland. Cleveland may play well enough to finish off the year, and Cleveland may just dump him still or trade him to somebody, and there's how his career starts. Who knows? But this game is pivotal for him, I think, for his future in Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very small sample size, obviously. He came in last week in lieu of injury, but I mean, we kind of talked about it not being enough to see, but was there anything to make you think that he's at least better than Dylan Gabriel?
I don't think he can do much worse. Like, let's be honest, there's nothing that Dylan Gabriel did that made me sit there and go, just let him come back. He's gonna be all right. This is the turning point. No, there was nothing that he did in these games that gave me any confidence. Let Shedeur take over now. Don't rush, Gabriel back. He was your third round pick, so let him be the guy. Let him rest. Let Shedeur, take some games and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Because now the Raiders are also very desperate for a win too. But Cleveland's defense has been quite good this year. What's kind of your gut feeling on this? Do you think Shedeur will have success against the Raiders and be able to pull out a win here, or do you think the Raiders kind of finally get one on the board?
The Raiders are a hot mess. Raiders. Come on, man. Geno Smith is hideous. Like, really? Like, after his last game, like, do you have any confidence?
Dallas game, that was bad.
Really, like, honestly, and that Dallas defense, they were playing with emotion. Like, I give them credit, they were playing with emotion, but Cleveland's defense is elite. Their offense is hell horrible, but that defense is elite. They're averaging like 3 sacks a game. It's not going to be pretty. Like, Geno is horrible. I feel bad for the guy, but it's a wrap. So if they get after Geno, that's going to probably be the reason why Shedeur looks good. He's probably going to end up with a couple of short field drives, probably score, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh man, look at that Shedeur, 2 touchdowns, probably a pick, but 2 touchdowns, solid rating, solid yards. People are going to be like, oh, okay, he's not bad. Well, you played a horrible Raiders team, but hey, your stats are your stats. So
it's funny, not that long ago, we used to go, oh, hey, Geno still got some. But I think it's pretty clear that at this point in the season, Geno has exhausted whatever professional talent he has left in the tank.
Geno had it half a week one, maybe. I don't even know. Geno has just been a hot mess, and yeah, I think it's time. So I think the Raiders are just getting, at this point, if Geno really, really screws the pooch this week, put in the backup, let it ride out, and get ready for a top 5 pick and find your future.
I'm gonna be a bad football podcaster right here because Aiden O'Connell's been out for the year. I don't even know who the Raiders' backup is.
See, they should have signed Kyle Trask. He would have been great there. He would have started. He would have freaking started probably because Because if you're just going to stick with Geno because you don't have a backup, forget that mess. If I'm on that team, I'm like, I'm done after this year. Like, at this point, you got to figure it out. Geno is just done. It's not going to be pretty.
Well, speaking of Kyle Trask, unless Kirk Cousins pulls a little magic left out of the bottle, there might be a chance for Kyle Trask to get some starts towards the end of the year because Michael Penix is out for the season. That knee injury proved to be more severe than originally thought. And now they headed to New Orleans, and New Orleans, oddly enough, as much as we dumped on them this season, has a chance to flip the basement dwellers of the NFC South with a win here.
Not gonna lie, it's kind of tantalizing,
Is this weird for you? Because you kind of want to root for the Saints to stick it to the Falcons, but I know it pains you to ever do anything positive for the Saints.
It does. It does. There is a slight like gut wrench right here, but I'm willing to take it for the week just because, yet again, everyone swore that this Falcons team was going to be incredible and Super Bowl bound and all this talent, and Michael Penix was going to be the man this year. I don't wish injury on anybody. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where Penix has an injury history, and unfortunately, it's an partial tear of the ACL in his knee. So you feel bad about it, but they've mishandled this team as a whole anyway. So Raheem Morris is, just preparing his cardboard box to move on out, because if they keep him one more year, I just don't get it.
I don't either. If they keep him one more game, I don't get it.
So if there's Kirk Cousins, your $90 million backup, whoop, whoop, cash money. So Kurt's going to do his thing. He's going to be without Drake London for this week, so it'll be interesting. I'm sure the run game is going to be front and center. If Kurt does get hurt, it's going to be between Kyle Trask or Easton Stick. They did sign. They do have Easton Stick. We all remember him from Charger lore. Charger lore there. Easton Stick had like one game of epicness, and everyone was like, "This is the guy." But Atlanta's just trying to figure it out. They just got to get healthy. I don't know what's going to be, but I'm telling you right now, the Saints are going to be playing with fire, because at this point they don't want to finish in last place. They know they've been a joke this year, and they're going to do everything in their power to figure this thing out.
No, I mean, and I think pride for the Saints is the key word here, because I'm not saying Tyler Show is the man of the future for them, but he hasn't looked bad. He's at least looked good enough to make Kellen Moore and New Orleans brass think, hey, maybe we can address other issues on this team, and keep the boat floating along at quarterback with Tyler Show.
Well, that's going to be the thing. You're gonna want to see progression throughout the rest of the season, and if you do see that, I don't know if you go, unless he shows you a lot. I don't know if you really go in saying into next season, this is our guy. Yeah, he's in competition, but depending where you fall, depending on where your draft status is, you may look at it, and if somebody falls to you or you make a deal, that could be where you go. They've got a lot of needs to address, so it all really depends what they do. I think New Orleans is, at some point, New Orleans has just got to take all the hits with all the money and everything and just say, you know what, we got to just scrape this thing and just start from scratch. Like Kamara, they should have traded him. If I was them, you would have gotten some picks for him. You would have gotten something for him. You weren't getting a 1 or a 2, but you might have eked out a possible 3. Someone might have been desperate enough, but you probably would have gotten 4 and a 5 or something. And you had you trade away your best receiver, basically, because unfortunately Chris Olave is he's a concussion machine. And your defense has some parts, but other parts are old as dirt. So just trade away all your assets. You let Brandon Cooks walk. You cut him this week. So I don't know who your wide receiver core is going to be. So why don't just trade everybody during the trade deadline, get what you can, and prep for a total rehaul. But we know how the Saints do. You throw money at the problem, and it supposedly fixes it. And it's not going to fix what you've got here, but I think they may figure out a way and take out the Falcons. I don't know.
The Saints, very much a metaphor to the United States government. Throw money and hope it solves the problem.
Yeah, throw me my $2,000 check, man. Give me my money. Give me my money. Give it to me now. I can't wait next year. Give it to me now. See these things over here? They ain't cheap. I need these things. You throw me my check. I gotta get more.
Fill that wall.
That's it, man. Hopes and dreams. Gotta fill it with something.
I never thought there'd be a week to make Buccs McGee a Saints fan, yet here we are.
Yeah, well, don't go shipping me a hat or nothing, because I'm still not wearing that shit.
No, just glorified toilet paper. Anyway, that is
I don't
week
know.
12.
That might be rough on the end there. I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's like pine cone, the equivalent of a pine cone when you're
That's like
camping.
that's prison paper right there. That's prison
Prison
paper.
paper, prison paper. Well, a lot of quarterbacks in injury prison for sure. That is week 12. It should shape up to an interesting Sunday since we don't have a ton of beautiful games, but we still got a ton of headlines one way or the other. Bucks McGee, take us off air as we start week 12.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. Not a lot of real headlining games. There's some games with some plots to it. There's a lot of injuries. So there's going to be some young guys, taking the helmet quarterback. If that's one of your teams, you might see the future right there. Teams still jockeying, trying to figure out their playoff berths, and just some other teams that are just a hot dumpster fire. And sometimes you like to sit home and watch a dumpster fire. Just makes you feel good about yourself. I don't know, but it's week 12 and burn, baby, burn.